Hey everyone, welcome back to the workshop. Artisan Pirate here, and in today's fun scroll saw project video, I have another amazing design picked out by Steve Good, and it's another Halloween themed project. You guys know I love Halloween. I get to dress up a lot during the month of October and be the pirate and do a lot of dressing up for that and put smiles on faces throughout the community in my area, and I always look forward to that every year when it comes around. The weather starts cooling off a little here in the south as we get into those cooler months. I've already got the pattern printed out to its full size and attached to our material with clear packing tape, and it's a 2-page pattern, and it depicts a human skeleton. Now this is not Halloween themed per se. It can be used as a Halloween decoration. Of course, the skeleton and the skull is an iconic fixture of both Halloween and also the pirate culture, so I'm really happy to cut this out and put it with my pirate stuff. So really neat. I also think it could be used as a teaching tool, especially if you would stack cut these and cut a bunch of them out and pass them out to students to help them identify like where the shoulder is, the rib cage, and just the bones within the human body. So really cool. And the material we're going to be cutting out is more 1/2-inch plywood, and I think this is a throwback for me, the 1/2-inch plywood, because when I very first started learning to scroll saw under my grandfather's guidance at the age of 14, after I got a couple simple projects cut out on his old 16-inch pinned blade scroll saw, and we got the pinless scroll saw in the workshop, the Delta one that he had not cleaned up and fixed, I wanted to try some intermediate patterns, and the only thing he had to try those patterns out of was 1/2-inch material. That's what he had readily available, to where we didn't have to go to the store during the winter and pick up stuff and, you know, freeze and everything. So it's really a throwback mentally for me to cut out this material, and since everything is prepared, let's head over and drill all the pilot holes to get all these bones cut out, and we can start scrolling. And over here on the workbench, we are taking the Seiko scroller's drill and drilling out all of the pilot holes for internal cutting. And you will note that I have a piece of wood behind the scroll work to prevent blowout on the back side of the material. That way we can easily detect where all of the pilot holes are. Over here at the scroll saw, I am using a number 5 ultra reverse tooth blade for all of the cutting on the material, and it will cut through the 1/2-inch plywood exceptionally well with minimal chip out, which is always good when it comes time to sand. If you guys would like to try this pattern, it's available as a free pattern download over at Steve Good's scrollsawworkshop.blogspot.com website over in his free pattern catalog. Once again, this is one of his older patterns. I like to go through the catalog all the way through it from when he began uploading to the current day, just to pick out some patterns that some people may have missed and bring them to life over here on the channel. Going through here and doing all of the internal cutting, and I've just got on some nice music and I'm lost in my world of sawdust. And there is some tight cuts in the rib cage of the skeleton, some tight V cuts, and I will simply cut down one side of the pilot hole and back it back and continue the cut on the opposite side to get that nice tight V between all of the ribs on the rib cage. If you guys like what you're seeing, I would highly encourage you to subscribe to my channel and also follow me across all my social medias under the Artisan Pirate name. I'd really appreciate the support. Going through here, getting the final interior cut done, and then we can retension the blade and begin doing the final outside release cut. And it felt to me that this final outside perimeter cut took longer for me to do than it took to do all of the internal cutting, because it's just one very long and very slow cut. As always, I'm just taking my time and letting the blade do the work. And you guys all know that the skeleton, and especially the skull and crossbones, is the icon of pirates everywhere. The most famous Pirates Jolly Roger ever, belonging to Calico Jack Rackham, had the skull and cross swords on it. Going through here, I was very careful when cutting out the fingers there. I did not want no burn marks on the material. That is again why I'm just taking my time with the blade here. And the 1/2-inch plywood here cuts exceptionally well and very smooth on the scroll saw. And once again, it just throws it back to when I began my scrolling journey and wanted to get some intermediate projects under my belt.
All that Grandpa had lying around in the workshop at the time was 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch plywood, and that was what I used. Coming down the other side of the skeleton here, and as I said, I think this project would be a great teaching tool, like in schools or classrooms or something, and of course it could be enlarged and made bigger. Now that all the scroll work is done, I'm carefully removing him from the waste wood, and we see our skeleton complete for the first time. And now we can go over to sanding with 180 grit sandpaper in the palm sander. This is the Cling Spore sandpaper I'm using here, and sanding with small circular motions. And then it will be time to apply stain, and this project can be finished in a variety of ways. This is just how I wanted to finish this one here today, using that sponge brush to make sure that I get the stain into all of the nooks and crannies there. And then I will wipe off all the excess with a scrap piece of t-shirt material, and then hang him on a hook to dry in front of a fan. And then when he was dry, it was time to apply clear coat, which was Rust-Oleum clear gloss, and I gave it several coats, and once that dried completely, the project was complete.
And here we have the completed human skeleton, cut out completely on the scroll saw, and he finished up amazingly well. Thank you, Steve Good, for another fantastic pattern from your pattern catalog. Once again, this pattern is not a newer offering from this year. This is older in the archives. I periodically like to go through the entire catalog when I don't have nothing to do and pick and pull patterns from all eras of Steve's uploads to try to bring them to life over here on the channel. And I hope I brought the human skeleton to life in a satisfactory manner for you guys, and I hope it inspires some of you guys to maybe want to go out and cut him out yourself. It took me around 30 minutes to scroll him out. He's not a very complicated pattern, he's just very tedious. There are some small cuts in the rib cage and between the hip bones, and of course you want to make sure that the skeleton, skull, and everything looks amazingly well. And I finished him in my normal manner. I used Minwax wood stain and Rust-Oleum clear gloss, but this pattern lends itself to several uses, several display options, and several ways to make it. Of course, I cut him out of 1/2 inch material here, the plywood, because that's just what I had on hand and wanted to keep using that because it scrolls exceptionally well. Steve's pattern, when you download it, suggested 1/4 inch material, and again, I think the 1/2 inch material here just shows up a lot better on camera for you guys for this kind of purpose here. And I have a ton of skulls and crossbones and everything in my room, and this is just going to go with that collection for the whole pirate flair. Of course, the skull, the crossbone skeletons are icons and symbols of the pirate lore, the folklore, and the history of everything. And he's not a Halloween pattern per se, it's just how I'm interpreting it in my mind's eye. So just keep that in mind. You could of course make this bigger, paint him white like actual human bones, and hang him in a classroom for a teaching tool. You could stack cut these out of thinner material like 1/4 inch material or even 1/8 inch material, maybe 4 or 5 deep. Stack cut them and finish them and hang them from a string with other stuff from Halloween, you know, just to hang in a window during the Halloween season for a spooky vibe. And if you wanted to go even spookier, and hear me out, you could cut him out of the thicker material like I have here today, to where you can drill a hole in the top of the head and put an eye hook in it, to where you can hang him from one of those old school disco balls and maybe rotate slowly, even put some of that fluorescent paint on him and put a strobe light on him where that would be flashing while he was slowly rotating ominously up in the air. I think that would be a very spooky vibe if someone wanted to do that. I'd love to see that done. But I had a lot of fun making him, and one thought that just occurred to me while I'm standing here talking to you guys is, if you have access to a laser cutter or engraver, I know they're becoming more popular and more affordable for hobby woodworkers to get. You could cut this pattern out of poster board and cut out 10 or 15 and pass these out to students in a class and get them to write on the poster board what each human bone is and maybe do a test that way. So there's a lot of uses for a pattern and a lot of ways to display it, mount it, use it. It's very versatile and an amazing pattern to use for multiple uses. But really, really cool. I had a lot of fun making him, and I hope you guys like watching me make him. If you're new here, please subscribe to the channel and also follow me across all my social medias under the Artisan Pirate name. As always, links to contact me as well to all my socials will always be linked down in the description box below these videos. That's about all for this one, and remember guys, if I can make it or do it, so can you. I'm the Artisan Pirate. Take care, and I'll see you guys real soon.